They say betrayal only hurts when it comes from someone you trust. But what if it comes from someone too close to hate? I used to believe I knew what boundaries were. That love had lines. That loyalty was simple. If you loved someone, you didn't cross certain lines. But life has a way of testing everything you say you believe. I was married. I had a routine. A husband who worked hard, provided, came home tired. A house that looked perfect on the outside. And a heart that hadn't felt seen in years. But then he started showing up more often. Liam, my husband's younger brother. He didn't come with bad intentions. At least, that's what I told myself at first. He was just helping out, right? Helping with the kids. Fixing that leaky sink Eric kept saying he'd get to. Making me laugh when I couldn't remember the last time I had. I didn't see it coming. That's the part that scares me the most. It wasn't one big moment that changed everything. It was all the small ones. The passing glances, the inside jokes, the way he noticed I cut my hair when my own husband didn't. And before I knew it, I wasn't just waiting for my husband to come home anymore. I was noticing when Liam walked through the door. They say a woman breaks all at once. But that's not true. We break in pieces, quietly, long before anyone hears the sound. 2 years have passed. And yet, that one night, that one choice, still echoes every time I close my eyes. My husband's brother, he did something I thought I'd never forgive. But maybe the worst part is what I allowed. If you've ever made a mistake you couldn't take back, if you've ever felt unseen, unheard, this story is for you. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold, because this isn't just a story. It's a confession. And maybe, just maybe, it's also a mirror. We weren't perfect, but we were surviving. My husband, Eric, he was the kind of man who measured love in sacrifices. Bills paid, roof fixed, groceries stocked. Not in kisses, not in time, and definitely not in words. I used to watch him when he slept, just to remember what it looked like when he wasn't stressed or distracted. And some nights, that was the only time I saw him. He worked long hours, always on the go, always tired. And when he did come home, he'd collapse on the couch with his phone in one hand and silence in the other. Meanwhile, I was raising 2 little humans, trying to remember who I was beyond mom and honey and can you grab the laundry? There were days I'd clean the entire house, make dinner from scratch, help the kids with their homework. And he'd walk in, glance around, and say, "Did we get any mail today?" Not, "How was your day?" Not, "Are you okay?" But I didn't complain. Because complaining felt like admitting something was broken. So I swallowed it all. The loneliness, the quiet dinners, the way my body missed being touched without it feeling like a chore. Then came Liam, Eric's younger brother. Same family, but completely different energy. Where Eric was quiet, Liam was loud. Where Eric was reserved, Liam was warm. He'd show up with bags of groceries, even when we didn't need them. Playfully tease the kids, toss them over his shoulders like they were weightless. And then he'd look at me and say something like, "You're doing amazing, you know that?" Like he meant it. Like he saw me. A quiet house. Too clean. Too quiet. Too orderly. The kind of house where every clock ticks too loud and every night feels the same. It wasn't that Eric didn't care. It's just, he didn't notice when I stopped smiling. But Liam did. He'd stay longer when Eric was out of town. Come over after work, just to check in. Bring wine. Sit at the kitchen table while I cooked. And somewhere between folding laundry and boiling pasta, I started waiting for his knock on the door. I'd tell myself, he's just family. But deep down, I knew I was lying. There was this one afternoon. Sunlight pouring through the kitchen window. The kids were napping. The house felt still. He walked in and said, "God, this house smells like a home." And I laughed. Like really laughed. The kind that feels like it comes from a part of you that's been asleep for too long. I hadn't laughed like that in months. That was the first moment I realized something was shifting. not between us. Inside me. And once that door opened, even just a crack, nothing was ever quite the same again. It started with a storm, literally. Eric was out of town again. Another business trip, another airport hotel, another late-night check-in text, and a half-hearted, "miss you." But I was used to that by now. Liam had come over earlier that evening to help fix the bathroom light fixture, but he stayed for dinner. It wasn't planned. But neither of us seemed in a hurry for him to leave. The sky outside was turning that deep charcoal gray, the kind that makes you feel like something's coming. Thunder rolled in slow and heavy, and rain tapped gently at the windows like it had a secret to tell. The kids were already in bed. Chicken parmesan was in the oven, and I had a half-finished bottle of red wine on the counter. He smiled when I offered him a glass. "Don't mind if I do." We sat at the kitchen table, just talking. Nothing special, nothing deep, but it felt easy. I remember thinking, I wish Eric talked to me like this. Then, right as I was pouring him another glass, the lights flickered. Twice. Then out. Total silence. Except for the storm outside and our quiet laughter. "Guess the universe wanted us to slow down," he said. I found the old candles I kept in the pantry, fat ones from our wedding day that I could never bring myself to throw out. We lit them, one by one. And, just like that, everything felt different. There was something about the dim glow, the shadows it cast on the walls. It made the room feel smaller, cozier. Like we were the only two people in the world. He moved a little closer. His knee brushed mine under the table. Not hard. Not obvious. Just enough to feel. He looked at me, and it wasn't the way family looks at you. It wasn't brother-in-law to sister-in-law. It was man to woman. And I noticed. God, I noticed. And the worst part? I didn't move away. I didn't stop it. I just sat there, pretending not to notice the way my chest tightened. The way my skin felt warmer. We talked about silly things. Childhood memories. Favorite songs. He told me a story about Eric falling off a tree when they were kids. I laughed harder than I should have. "You should laugh more," he said softly. And then he held that look. Just a second too long. I felt it in my stomach, the twist, the flutter, the guilt. But also, the ache. The ache of being noticed. He didn't touch me. Not yet. But his eyes. They lingered. And in that candlelit silence, we both knew something had shifted. I got up to blow out the candles. He stood up too. We stood there, barely a breath apart. And in that moment, I didn't know whether I wanted to run or stay still forever. What happened next? I never meant for it to go that far. I told myself it was nothing. Just attention. Just a harmless moment between two adults who knew better. That's the lie I clung to for days. I told myself I was just flattered. That I only felt something because no one had looked at me like that in a long time. That the wine, the candlelight, the storm, it all just created a moment that felt more than it was. But deep down, I knew better. Because I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stop feeling it. I replayed that night in my head over and over, the low hum of thunder in the background, the glow of the candle flickering between us, the way his eyes dropped to my lips when I spoke, and that moment, so small, so stupid, when he tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. It was gentle. Barely anything, but it burned. I should have pulled away. I could have pulled away, but I didn't, and that haunted me. I started noticing things I had trained myself to ignore. How often I ate dinner alone. How Eric barely touched me anymore, unless it was out of habit or obligation. I started asking myself questions that made my chest hurt. Am I just lonely? Is it wrong to want to feel beautiful again? If Eric saw me, if he really looked at me, would he even care? I kept thinking, maybe Liam didn't mean anything by it. Maybe I was just reading into it because I was starved for affection. But then why did his voice linger in my head when I tried to fall asleep? Why did my heart skip when I saw his name pop up in a text? I caught myself putting on lipstick before he came over. Not red, just a soft pink. Something subtle. Something that said, I still matter. And when I caught him watching me laugh with the kids, or brushing my hair behind my ear the way he had that night, he never said a word. But his eyes did, and mine answered. I was unraveling. Quietly. From the inside out. I felt guilt. Of course I did. But I also felt something I couldn't remember feeling in years alive. That scared me more than anything. I told myself nothing had happened. No line had been crossed. Not really. But what about the lines in your mind? The ones no one can see, but still bleed when they're crossed. I would lay in bed next to Eric, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he could tell I wasn't there with him anymore. Wondering if I ever really had been. Liam kept coming around. More than usual. More than what made sense. At first, it was little things, changing the batteries in the smoke detector, lifting the heavy groceries, entertaining the kids so I could breathe for 5 minutes. He always had a reason, a task, an excuse to linger. But it wasn't about the groceries or the smoke detector. It was about the way his fingers brushed mine when I handed him a dish. The way his eyes lingered a little too long when I bent down to pick something up. He'd compliment my cooking like it was a work of art. How do you make something smell this good and taste better? And then he'd smile, not just with his mouth, but with something behind his eyes. Something that pulled at the part of me I'd kept hidden. I knew I should have told him to stop. Should have put up a wall. Reminded him who I was. Who we were. But I didn't. Because for once, I didn't want to be the responsible one. The wife. The mother. The silent, invisible partner in a house full of shoulds and musts. I just wanted to be seen. Wanted. One night, the kids were with my mom for the weekend. Eric had extended his trip again, and I was alone. Or, I thought I was. I came downstairs to get a glass of water, and there he was, Liam. In the kitchen. Shirtless. Digging through the fridge like he belonged there. He turned around casually and smiled. Hope you don't mind, I was craving your leftover stew. And he said it like we weren't pretending anymore. He didn't cover up. Didn't act surprised. He leaned against the counter and said, You deserve more than just being someone's afterthought. I froze. Not because I didn't know what he meant, but because I did, and it scared me how much I wanted to believe him. That night, I didn't lock my bedroom door. I lay there, awake, heart pounding in the dark, listening, waiting, but nothing happened. No footsteps, no knock, no sound, just silence. And somehow, that silence said more than anything else ever could. The next morning, I woke up early, still in my clothes from the night before, my pillow untouched on one side. But when I walked into the kitchen, Liam was there, cooking eggs, like it was the most natural thing in the world. He smiled, handed me a cup of coffee, and said, Morning. Hope you slept well. Like we hadn't been dancing on the edge of something irreversible. I didn't expect what happened next. What he said, what he did that morning. It changed everything. It happened. And I wish I could tell you it was some grand, cinematic moment. But it wasn't. It wasn't planned. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate. Messy. Confusing. One minute we were standing in the hallway, me in an old t-shirt, him holding a mug of coffee, and the next, we were in my bedroom. Hands pulling. Breaths quickening. Hearts pounding like they were trying to break free from our chests. I remember his lips on my neck. The way he whispered, Are you sure? And I remember nodding, not because I was sure, but because I didn't want to stop feeling wanted. It didn't last long. It wasn't soft or slow. It was raw, urgent, like we were both trying to pour years of emptiness into one impossible moment. When it was over, he didn't say a word. He rolled onto his back, staring at the ceiling. I laid there, frozen, still, like if I moved, the truth might follow me out of that room. He turned to me, eyes wide but quiet, and whispered, What do we do now? I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just stared at the ceiling, feeling everything, and nothing at the same time. I heard the kids' laughter echo in my mind. Eric's tired voice over the phone the night before. The smell of pancakes from the kitchen. And I felt like I was floating, but not in peace. In panic. Because something inside me had cracked, and no amount of pretending was going to patch it back up. Tell me, was it already betrayal the moment I let him see me that way? Was it the night I left my door unlocked? The moment I didn't say no? Or was it something deeper? Comment your thoughts. I read every single one. Maybe, if I read them enough times, I'll figure out how to forgive myself. Liam didn't come around for days. No texts. No casual drop-ins. Nothing. And I became two people. To Eric, I was the same old wife, tired, distracted. Just another week in a long stretch of quiet ones. I still made dinner. Still folded his shirts. Still smiled when I needed to, but inside, I was unraveling. It's strange how guilt doesn't always feel like a scream. Sometimes, it's just a low hum. Beneath every breath, every blink, every fake laugh. Eric didn't notice the change. Or maybe he did, and didn't want to ask. His work trips got longer, more frequent. And the more he left, the less I knew how to feel. When Liam finally came back around, he didn't say a word about that morning. He joked with the kids, fixed the broken towel rack, asked me if I needed anything from the store. And just like that, he rewrote the script. No mention, no glance, just silence, wrapped in small talk. And I didn't know whether to be relieved or shattered. Was it nothing to him? Just a mistake? A lapse in judgment easily tucked away like a misplaced key. I waited for him to say something, anything, to acknowledge what we did, to ask if I was okay, to tell me he regretted it, or didn't. But he didn't, and so I spiraled. Every silence between us started screaming, every accidental touch now avoided. Every playful moment with the kids felt too bright, too loud, like it didn't belong to me anymore. I thought I'd feel closer to someone. I thought, at the very least, I wouldn't feel so alone. But I just felt abandoned by both of them. Eric kept leaving. Liam kept pretending. And I was left holding the weight of a decision no one wanted to name. Some nights, I'd sit at the kitchen table long after everyone was asleep, staring at my reflection in the dark window, wondering who I had become. Wondering if this ache in my chest would ever stop pulsing. Wondering if I had crossed a line, or if I had simply revealed one that had always been waiting there. I still ask myself, did I betray my husband? Or did I betray myself first? Because long before Liam touched me, long before that night, I had already started disappearing. I was surviving on autopilot. Waking up beside a man who didn't look me in the eyes anymore. Raising children I adored, but losing the woman I once was in the process. I was lonely. Not for attention, but for connection. Liam was supposed to be family. He was supposed to be safe. Another piece of Eric's world. But somehow, for one brief moment, he became something else. Something tender. Something dangerous. Something I needed and never asked for again. And that's what twists the knife. That it wasn't love. It wasn't passion. It was a moment, and that moment was enough to undo me. Do I regret it? Yes, every day. But not for the reasons most people would think. Not because I got caught because I didn't. Not because it ruined my marriage, because Eric still doesn't know. I regret it because it made me realize how invisible I had become, how long I had been silently screaming into a void. I regret needing that moment at all. And I regret that when it was over, there was no healing. Just silence. Just distance. Just more of the same, but heavier. Because now I don't just feel alone. I feel hollow. Have you ever made a choice, not because you wanted to, but because you didn't know how to say no? Because you were tired of being invisible, tired of being strong, tired of waiting for someone to notice you were slowly fading? I think about that night all the time. Not because it was romantic. It wasn't. It was messy, silent, and terrifying. but because it forced me to see something I'd spent years avoiding, that I had been aching for someone, anyone, to see me. Was I wrong for letting that moment happen? For unlocking that door? For not pulling away? For not speaking up when I should have? Or was I just human? A woman caught in the quiet unraveling of her own loneliness. Tell me in the comments, was this betrayal? Or was it just a cry for connection that went too far? Have you ever been in a situation where doing nothing still felt like choosing something? If stories like this stir something deep inside you, if they make you reflect, remember, or feel, like this video and subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. Because here, we don't just tell stories. We unravel the human heart, one thread at a time. Some people come into your life like fire. They warm you, then they burn you. Liam was never meant to be mine. But for one moment, I let myself believe I belonged in his gaze. The lines we cross in silence are the ones we carry the longest. Because no one saw us. No one heard us. But I felt it, and it still echoes. I thought I could forget. Thought time would erase it. But time doesn't erase what you never confess. It just buries it deeper. And some nights, when the house is quiet, I still hear the sound of that candle burning. Still feel the weight of his silence the morning after. If you're lonely, be careful who notices. Not every smile is meant to save you. Some are just reflections of the parts of yourself you've tried to forget. This was my story. But maybe it's yours too.